President Trump taking on John Kerry ahead of today's Iran deal announcement, tweeting this. He was the one who created this mess in the first place. This in response to reports of the former Secretary of State's shadow diplomacy, first reported in the Boston Globe, while he was meeting with Iranian officials at least twice, as well as European officials, to save the Obama-era deal, and he did the bulk of the negotiation. Our next guest argues that Kerry's actions are wrong in every way. Here to explain, CIA officer and radio talk show host Buck Sexton. Hey, Buck, this seems to be a violation of the Logan Act, which is never prosecuted, but this is really out of line, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that the former Secretary of State, and he needs a reminder that it is in fact former, is wrong on every conceivable level here. I think he's wrong on the substance, which people can disagree on, but the Iran deal has some fatal flaws in it. It has from the start ballistic missiles, the sunset provisions, some of the sites that do not actually get inspections. We can disagree on that. That all said, there's also a bad faith element here. You can only have one Secretary of State, one administration at a time. And for a former Secretary of State to step in here, Brian, and act like the shadow Secretary of State really undermines the authority of the people who are supposed to be engaged in these kinds of negotiations. You can't help but think that John Kerry is coaching the other side here. And then, as you mentioned, the Logan Act brings in a legal aspect of it. Now, look, we all know, it's been repeated a lot, the Logan Act has never been used to prosecute anyone. It should not be used to prosecute anyone. It's unconstitutional if it were to be challenged. That said, Brian, why do we all know what the Logan Act is? Oh, that's right, because there was a whole lot of discussion about it when it came to General Flynn, the incoming national security advisor for Trump. The hypocrisy here is jaw-dropping. In one case, it's a big deal. In this case, a more egregious and obvious violation of the Logan Act. It seems like there are crickets on this, and we want to know why.
Oh, a couple of things. Flynn was about to get the job. Kerry is out of a job, number one. Number two, he's met with the EU foreign policy chief. He's also met with Macron of France. He's met with the German president, and he's met twice with the Iranian foreign minister, all to keep this going. Can you imagine how any Bush official felt, like Secretary of State Rice? Well, President Obama decided just to pull us out of Iraq, therefore creating ISIS, kept his mouth shut. What did Kissinger do as we abandoned Vietnam? How did he feel about that? He kept his mouth shut. When asked, he'd respond, but not lobby other governments. Here's what Kerry's spokesperson had to say, if we could pop that up too. He believes it is important that the nuclear agreement, which took the world years to negotiate, remain effective as countries focus on stability in the region. And we also know a couple of months ago, he was telling others, Trump's only going to be in power a couple of years.
Look, this is something that we expect from the Taliban, to have a shadow government in place, not from our own former Secretary of State. I mean, this is really beyond the pale. And, you know, to have meetings like this is not casual. This is not someone who's just talking to his former counterparts. He's negotiating from the other side of the table.
Buck Sexton, thanks. We'll talk about it. We'll find out more at 2 o'clock. Meanwhile,